Tigers get back in the win column, this time against the Minnesota Twins. Great way to kick off a homestand. A lot of home runs hit at Comerica Park on Monday night as well. We will talk about all of that all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off of your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy today. Welcome in, everyone. The Tigers are winners against the Minnesota Twins on Monday night at home in front of a fantastic Comerica Park crowd in what was a beautiful night for baseball. A 6-3 final. The Tigers improved to 66-48 on the season, and the Twins fall to 52-60. Twins around a 500 ball club at the All-Star break went hardcore sell mode. Okay, you look at some of the names, that lineup that they rolled out there just looks absolutely nothing like the lineup that they put out there, in some random game in May. And you look at the bullpen, the arms that they were using in this ball game, not even close to the arms that they would have used in a tight ball game against a division rival just a couple of months ago. This team scrapped it all down. And on top of that, you have Buxton on the injured list, where he has unfortunately spent a lot of his career just an absolute teardown. And you could really tell in this ballgame. And that's kind of my first thought, is this was a good win. Like it was shaky out of the gate. And I think almost weirdly, maybe this is like contradictory, but I almost feel like that makes it somewhat, I don't want to say more impressive, but I'm slightly more maybe satisfied with the win because it ended up being a comfortable victory against a bad team, even though, or despite the fact that the Tigers, really, didn't show up for the first half of the ballgame. I've been saying this all year, but this is a team that at its best, and a lineup that at its best continues to apply pressure throughout the game. And fortunately, that includes when they don't apply pressure for the entire first, 4 innings. Forcing defenses to make good plays, which, tip your cap to the Twins. They made a lot of good plays. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Enough offensive threats where you have, home run possibilities, really, top to bottom. Like, that's not to say that this is a Tigers lineup card that, you look at and you're like, wow, the 9-hitter could hit 30 home runs or something. Obviously, that's nowhere near the case, but you at least have a possibility of a long ball really at any point, 1 through 9. And so they continue to apply pressure, and eventually that seal breaks against a far inferior opponent. And I think that's what was satisfying about this ballgame. Really frustrating first 4 innings. You were like, oh my goodness, are they actually about to, look this bad against the Minnesota Twins and a guy who, has only made 5 major league appearances and this is his first major league start? Are we kidding? And then, like, okay, they ended up, all things evened out, water found its level, and they treated a worse opponent like a worse opponent. So we'll start with what went right. I do want to start with the offense, actually. I feel like most of the time I start with the pitching because I just kind of love breaking down pitching, to be honest with you. But this, I think, was a unique offensive performance because of how quickly the first, half of the ball game went through. But once they broke the seal, they really broke it. Like it was an avalanche. It was a snowball effect, if you will. We'll start with Kerry Carpenter. 2 for 4, 2 RBIs. Obviously, the mammoth home run, the moon mammoth, if you will. That's the longest home run of his Major League Baseball career. It was almost 440 feet to the pole side. That ball was crushed. That like you're getting into like Pepsi porch territory. Like that was at the top of the right field bleachers. Incredible display of strength and just, again, continues to highlight how good of a hitter he is. We talked on this show, about his value to the team when he was slumping, right? And the topic of conversation while he was hurt, obviously, the team was losing, whatever. And I think that when I had that conversation, there was a little bit of pushback from listeners, which honestly is probably justified, is almost certainly justified. My only point, I wasn't trying to say that like Kerry Carpenter is, not valuable or whatever. My only point was that his value comes almost entirely from one specific area, right? He crushes right-handed pitching. And when I say crushes, I literally mean like over the last 2 seasons he has played, he's like up there with Ohtani and Judge numbers in terms of if you just look at his stats against right-handed pitching. He does that incredibly well. At his peak, again, like legitimately one of the best pure hitters against righties that this sport has to offer when he's healthy and on the field consistently. And at the end of the day, the reason why I say, the pushback when I said that might have been justified or is justified, not might have been, is because there will always be value for that, right? When he is right, he is one of the more valuable pieces in this lineup card. And he has done nothing but hit right-handers his entire Major League career. And on top of that, there's a chance that his slump this year was even more injury-related than anything else. The offense and the lineup is just much deeper when he is in the middle of it. And look, I mean, if that changes someday and he goes through, a long period of time where he's not hitting right-handers anymore, then that conversation, whatever, will I'm sure come back up within the fan base, right? He's not a good runner. He's not a great defender. Right, like he isn't walking like at all this year, but it doesn't matter because he crushes righties better than a lot of people. Nick Castellanos has had over a decade-long Major League Baseball career. He doesn't provide anything outside of the batter's box either. Hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports, and Kerry Carpenter does that really well, and there will always be a spot on the team for that, and always certainly be a spot in the lineup card for that. So shout out to Kerry Carpenter, and just an absolute moonshot and a little bit of attitude on it. Kerry Carpenter, not usually a guy that we look at for those home run celebrations or pimp jobs or anything. That was a little bit of swagger in that one, a little bit of attitude. With the bat drop and the hands in the air and everything. I like that. I like that. Get, pull that dog out of Kerry Carpenter. Let's keep the ball rolling. I want to talk about Winfield Perez. I want to talk about really the rest of the entire offense. We spent most of the segment just talking about one guy. Then we'll obviously talk about the pitching as well. But Kerry Carpenter, unbelievable story. The gift that keeps on giving Tigers fans. We will talk about the rest of the team and more right after this. First, though, got to talk to y'all about our friends over at FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I am truly a part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 against the Minnesota Twins and talking about, of course, anything else that happens in the Tigers organization. Let's talk Winfield Perez. Goes 1 for 2 with a walk and a big home run. He's been on absolute fire lately. We talked about it on yesterday's show. He had a fantastic weekend, had a few hits over the course of that series in Philadelphia, and now gets on base twice, including a big home run to tie this ball game. Nothing had happened offensively yet. Nothing. And Kerry Carpenter mentioned it in his post-game interview, I guess we'll call it, with Daniela Bruce on the field via FanDuel Sports Network, where he said Winfield Perez is a valuable part to the team, and then mentioned, the first at-bat, he swung and missed through that breaking ball, and then saw it again in the second at-bat and took it, almost 400 feet to right field. So I think that he continues, his OPS now back above 800, he continues to show his value. And I've said this a million times, okay, super broken record moment, but like a good switch hitter from both sides, a true switch hitter who it can hit righties and lefties on the mound, at least somewhat close to equally well, it is just so unbelievably valuable to an AJ Hinch offense. And so valuable to a team that is run by a guy that manages games like that and that does tinker and uses a lot of pinch hitting, etc. Like there is so many different situations that Winfield Perez can be deployed in. And he had a great weekend, against Philly defensively as well. And that just, I think, is a sign of his game continuing to develop. And I really, really like him a lot and hope that this is something. I don't know if like OPS in the 800s over 162 is necessarily like guaranteed to stick long term, but A, he doesn't need to hit that well to be super valuable to the team, and B, I'm not going to get in the way of a good time. We're going to keep riding that wave as long as he keeps producing. Spencer Torkelson with a couple of hits in this ball game as well. Good to see. Yeah, I feel like the power, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking in terms of like too small of a sample size, but I think that more consistent power is something that we're kind of looking out of him at this point. Obviously doesn't have the inconsistencies of Riley Green, but like for an at-bat or two there over the weekend, his OPS did dip below 800, and then, he immediately bounced back and now has 3 or 4 hits in his last 3 games. So, like I have been very vocal about how I trust Torkelson to not completely revert back to what he was, a year ago. I think the changes that he has made are legitimate and I believe in them, but there also is still a big question mark on what his ceiling actually is. And so I think that consistent power threat, not just a power threat end of sentence. Like you want to be that guy that throughout the course of the season is hitting home runs at a pretty even clip and is a threat to do damage at any point. And I think that's kind of maybe the next step here. So we'll see how he continues to develop. But regardless, this year is obviously a big step in the right direction for him, as well as Colt Keith, who goes 2 for 4, couple of singles, but the first hit he had in this ball game, I think was an absolute thing of beauty. Works the count a little bit, spits on a fastball inside. You kind of go, okay, you hit that ball 900 feet against Philly, maybe take a hack at that, whatever. And then he just gets the meatiest of meatball hanging slider at the top of the zone, and just quick hands, gets through the top of the zone and deposits it into center field. Javi goes first to third. I thought it was, it's a single. We're looking for more power out of Colt Keith at this point. We know that he can put the ball in play at a pretty decent clip here, but I was still really impressed with the mid-air adjustment that he made in that at-bat. And then speaking of Javi, goes 1 for 3 and plays center field. And that will I will never get tired of saying that. And I will never stop being way too dramatic about how incredible that is. That at this point in his career, this dude is playing plus defense in center field and still getting on base. Good for Javi. Zach McKinstry, pretty solid day at the office as well. When Javi's in center, assuming Trey Sweeney is not on the roster, that means somebody else has to play shortstop, and Zach McKinstry plays that position really well, as we know. And then at the plate goes 2 for 3 on top of that too. So good for him. Another guy that, since the All-Star break has taken, I think it's fair to say, a step back offensively from that All-Star clip that he was at, but, has still shown some signs of life, had a homer last week, has a couple of hits tonight. If he can just be, he doesn't need to have 800 OPS to be a valuable player. Like if he has a 700 OPS, honestly, I would gladly take it. So we'll see what he does consistently the rest of the year. Dylan Dingler with a line drive home run, like a low home run. Did not get too much elevation on that thing. Was a screamer. His offensive numbers on the season, a 274 average and a 749 OPS is just from the catcher position, period. Whether you're a good defender or a bad defender, from the catcher position, that is unbelievably valuable. That's an above league average hitter. And then on top of that, you have his incredible plus defense in almost every facet of catching. And you have one of, I think it's fair to say, legitimately one of the more valuable pieces on this roster. The bullpen was lights out in this one too against a bad Twins lineup. Although I will say, Brant Herter and Tommy Kahnle weren't exactly, setting the world on fire with their command. Okay, not a lot of location and precision, we'll say, from either of those fine gentlemen, but they got the job done. Herter back-to-back hit by pitches, and both were lefties. That just cannot happen. That you are in the game because there is a string of lefties coming up, brother. Like that is literally why your name has been called. You cannot plunk both of them and then start facing righties. And again, he got the job done. Brant Herter's really good at his job. He figured it out. But that is just something that, in a high leverage situation or against a far superior opponent might have come back to bite the Tigers and might have looked really poorly, from the bullpen management perspective when all things were said and done. And then Kahnle with a walk. I'm just glad he didn't give up a homer. I feel like it's been forever since he hasn't given up like hard contact in an outing. So tip of the cap to him. And then Kyle Finnegan, man, what a dog. What a dog. 1 inning, 1 hit, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. So one of the things we mentioned when he was acquired was that he doesn't have a ton of swing and miss overall, right? Like I think it is important to remember that his splitter changeup thing, whatever you want to call it, is a high whiff rate pitch. Like that pitch is still like well into the 30%, 33%, I want to say it is. And the Twins felt that in this ballgame. And it's also important to point out that in his 2 outings since becoming a Detroit Tiger, he has thrown the splitter at a higher clip than he has throughout the course of the season. Now, it's a small sample size, and I am not the first person to notice that. A lot of people online have already pointed that out. But it'll be an interesting thing to see if that continues. Tigers looking for swing and miss. His best whiff rate pitch is legitimately a plus swing and miss pitch. Maybe, and it's not like he wasn't throwing it. He was throwing, it was still his second most utilized pitch in his repertoire, but you bump that up to maybe even like a 50-50 scenario. That might even be too aggressive. You don't even really need to do that for it to be effective. So we'll see. But the coolest part of his outing was the emotion at the end, man. He's been a Tiger for like 4 days, and he's screaming on the mound after a big save against a Twins team that sold at the deadline, but a home crowd, his new home crowd on a new team, absolutely electric. Like that is all we ask for, right? That is all. I guess I did spend all of Friday's show whining about how I wanted more. So maybe that's not all we ask for, but like that is exactly what you want out of a player. You want someone to come in. He's been on a bad team for years now in Washington. And you want him to come in and immediately go, you know what? You've had a great career, but you are playing high leverage, meaningful baseball. We need wins. We need you to be the guy in the back end of this bullpen that has not been very good this year and kind of stabilize and right the ship. And that's one of the things I loved about what Chris Paddock said when he got traded here as well. He immediately, AJ Hinch goes, we had a conversation, and the first thing he said was he cares. All else aside, he'll meet the guys, he'll build relationships, he'll build bonds with the players on the team. He cares. He cares about winning. He really cares about a team that is this good asking for his services specifically. And that's what you love to see out of guys like Finnegan and Paddock. And I think that stuff matters. Casey Mize. We'll talk about him, then talk about what went wrong and stuff right after this. First, though, got to talk to you all about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one is a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or even off the course, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. There's a lot of fun to be had on the golf course, and I have a lot of fun on the golf course. But sometimes you get halfway through, you get through 9, or you finish 18, and then one of your, idiot friends is like, let's, round 2, and you're like, oh my goodness, well, I kind of do want to do that, but not really. Boom, 5 hour energy transfusion. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off of your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good for subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment. Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Let's talk Casey Mize really quickly. Really had a hard time figuring out what category I wanted to put Casey Mize in. 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 4 strikeouts, 3 home runs given up, though. His ERA is now 3.5 on the season, all solo shots. Didn't allow anything else besides the home runs, though. The splitter, I actually thought was really good. He had a lot of swing and miss on it. He had a lot of just strikes in general with it. Had a couple of called strikes in there as well. But the Major League Baseball difference when it comes to hitters is sometimes as little as just a few inches. And he left a couple of splitters just thigh high over the heart of the plate, and they got absolutely annihilated. He did that with a slider in this game as well. But when the splitter was located where he wanted it to be and was actually, at the ankles, it was very effective, like very, very effective. But it kind of neutralizes itself out when you also give up 2 homers on it. So interesting outing. Weird. No walks. The Tigers love. 4 strikeouts. You ideally want that to be higher. That's something we've talked about with Mize his entire Major League career. 3 runs in 6 innings, that's a quality start. So not a bad outing at all, but there's still plenty to work on too. Just kind of the definition of his 2025 season, really, and a lot of his major league career, I guess, to be honest with you. What went wrong? Not a whole lot. And I think I mentioned this at the top of the show. I like when the Tigers apply pressure offensively for 9 innings. Well, they did not in the first 4. That Travis Adams, with his first major league start in his 5th major league appearance, diced the Detroit Tigers. Absolutely sliced and diced. You remember that Fruit Ninja game? That was like middle school for me. Sliced and diced. Goodness gravy. I mean, like, all the respect in the world. Like, he was spinning it, okay? I don't think that this was purely just Tigers' ineptitude. Like, he really was spinning the ball really well, and I was pretty impressed. He 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 7 strikeouts. I think 5 of those were in the first 2 innings. And then obviously the home run ended up being, made the final line not look as good as he showcased the first time through the lineup. But I also think that there's a positive spin on this. Get it? It's that adjustments were actually made mid-game. They could not hit anything in the first 3 innings. The first time through the lineup, this was some of the worst this offense has literally looked all season. Like, they could not. He had 12 whiffs through like 4 innings. By the 5th inning, they were hitting him hard, though. And that is amazing to see. We talked about the Winfield Perez adjustment, but everybody there in the 5th inning, I think, really took those adjustments to heart, and they went, okay, we know what he's throwing. We've seen pretty much everything. We've gotten the kitchen sink already just one time through the lineup. Now we know what to look for, and now we can make adjustments and do damage. And I think the entire offense at once, kind of making those adjustments together, is props to the hitting coaches, Michael Bernard, etc., but also, obviously, above all else, the players. Only other thing I want to talk about on the side of things that went wrong, Riley Green, 1 for 4. He does get a hit, hard hit ball down the right field line, but 3 strikeouts in this ball game. Like a nice piece of hitting. Should have got a double on that, but really good relay throw. But 3 strikeouts. Like, he is legitimately, like, there is a chance he is legitimately going to have one of this higher, like, single season strikeout totals in the history of baseball. Like, that is the pace we're talking about. Adjustments need to be made. We've been talking about it all year. We will continue to talk about it. And maybe on an off day we can go a little bit more in depth on it or something. But I just, it's mind-boggling that even despite all of this, he's hitting .269 with an .822 OPS. Like, it really is a testament to how good he is when he's on. And then the last thing is just Matt Wallner in right field defensively. Well, I guess at the plate too, he had a home run in this game. Pimped a home run to straight center, dead center, straight center, same thing. But his arm in right field, that is legitimately, they talked about it on the broadcast, but his savant, like, he's in the 98th percentile in arm strength, and we felt it. I mean, golly, and maybe it's just easier to say this because the Tigers ended up winning, so maybe I'm, like, a loser in that regard, but I really don't have a problem with it, man. Like, they needed perfect relays to get both of those guys out. Those were not like, oh my goodness, they were out and didn't even have a play at the bag and they were out by a mile. Those are the definition of, over the course of 162, it's going to even out a lot more, and it's going to be not even out even. It's going to be a lot more in your favor than it isn't. And I really don't have an issue with either of those being aggressive. And like I said, maybe that's just because the Tigers were able to win anyways. Short ball game, really short ball game. Like, I think it was sub 2 hours. Crazy. You don't see too many games, even with the pitch clock, end that quickly. I'm going to be done with work before, 10 p.m. here. And that almost never happens. So, well, on normal scheduled, game nights at least. So, that was kind of interesting. But this is an opportunity for the Tigers to really run away with this thing. And I know that they already have the biggest division lead in baseball, but in the month of August, we talked about this yesterday. I'm going to bring it up again from a little bit of different numbers to throw at you. The Houston Astros are the only team in the entire month of August that is above 500 as we speak right now. That's your only opponent in a month that has a record over 500, and there's a chance that that will stay. The only team that could change that is if the Angels go on like some crazy run, but the rest of August. But like when you play the Angels, they will be sub 500. And then like maybe the Royals, you play twice and are, as the time of this recording, exactly 500, but that's because they won on Monday. They were sub 500 this weekend. So regardless of how you think the deadline went, whether you wanted them to be more aggressive, whether you were really happy with their approach, whatever, you should have a fantastic month and really solidify yourself as one of the top teams in the American League. I think it's pretty much inexcusable to not have one of, if not the best record in the American League going into September. And that's again, like kind of why I wanted them to be more aggressive at the deadline because of that. But again, regardless, your goal now with how easy this month is to put yourself in a position where you don't have to go like undefeated in September to be a top 2 seed in the American League. The goal is to not play wild card weekend. You want to buy in the first round. 3-game series, postseason series are such toss-ups. I don't want any part of that. So win some ball games. And nights like this help a lot. Okay? Game 2, you got Chris Paddock against Zebby Matthews. Zebby Matthews, another Twins pitcher with an ERA over 5, which is kind of what their whole roster is littered with post-deadline. Go win this ball game, win a series, and set yourself up for a sweep on Wednesday. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 against the Minnesota Twins at home. Same start time, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. And I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.